been shared with any of the candidates, but just full disclosure. Okay, so this candidate forum, it differs from a debate between candidates. In this forum, the candidate will answer an individual question and not have a back and forth with the other candidates. Questions have been submitted by the public and then finalized by a committee of AAUW and Rotary members. Questions will cover topics related to the role of the City Council, attitudes towards some of the controversial topics you will be facing in this position, your vision for the city, and general management of the council. So to begin, each candidate will give a 90-second opening statement. Following opening statements, there will be several rounds of questions. In each round, each candidate will be asked one question and have a minute and a half to answer it. After all candidates have answered their question in each round, candidates will be given 30 seconds to add to their answer or comment on any of the questions asked of the other candidates. So, can you guys show us what these signs look like so you guys know what you're looking for here in your countdown? And so that when he's pulsating that stop sign, yeah, please don't make me do my job, is what I'm asking, okay? So, timers will alert you and you'll stop when the time is up. When the time is up, you can finish your sentence and really no more. Candidates who disregard time limits may be limited on their subsequent time allotments. Candidates will be expected to answer the question they are given, but you don't have to fill the entire time. So, let's turn things over to start with Lacey.
Yes.
Great.
All right, we'll start the evening off with a 1.5 minute opening statement from each candidate. And we'll hear first from Paul Kess.
Thanks, Paul. This on? Yeah. There it is. Came on. Good evening, glad you're here. I'm Paul Kess. I'm an original Ely, born, went to high school here. I was a student in those very seats a long time ago, and I was a teacher here at the college for a long time. I enjoy public service. I've developed a thick skin for some of this, the more difficult issues that we face. I enjoy listening to people, and so that's why I'm running. I've been on a long time. I can continue to do good work, and I intend to. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Next, we'll hear from Frederica Musgrave.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, my name is Frederica Musgrave, and first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, listening in to our interviews. I still call them interviews, even though they aren't, and I really appreciate you being here. And I also want to thank the viewers at home who are going to watch this forum later. And again, thank you to the AAUW, Ely Branch, as well as the Rotary Club for sponsoring this, as well as the workers who keep us on track. And as I said, my name is Frederica Musgrave, and I'm running for City Council. I've been speaking at City Council meetings since the spring of 2023. And a year ago, friends and I set up Citizens for Transparency, a website where you can watch recordings of City Council, Park and Rec, and planning and zoning meetings. And my friends and I, we set up this website, www.elyminnesota.com/blog/ after I witnessed some disturbing behaviors at a planning and zoning meeting. I spoke at City Council and asked them to set up policies and procedures for codes of conduct, ethics, conflict of interest. That didn't happen, and I was told privately that they weren't needed. I respectfully disagree, and I do want to thank the Ely Echo for covering that meeting and letting people know where I stood. I have been door knocking, and people have constantly relayed to me that City Hall and City Council are good old boys club. That needs to be changed.
Thank you, Frederica. Jerome DeBells.
Okay, I'm Jerome Belch. I was born and raised in Ely. I've been on the city council 31 years consecutively. I also put a lot of time into this town. I coached football at college and high school for 21 years. I also coached track, and I worked with Meals on Wheels and things like that. I think anybody who's on city council or anything ought to give up their time to help other people. And if you can't help other people, well, you really aren't doing your job. And I like being on city council. I do my best. And one thing I said when I first got elected, a person walked up to me and said, well, congratulations, you're on city council. Now you're a city father, you got a lot of power. And I said to him, no, that's not true. I'm a representative of the people of Ely. And if I can't be a representative and I'm up there for my own gain, then I don't belong on it. And that's the way I feel about it. And I feel that people should do for the community other things too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerome. Emily Rose.
Hi, thank you all for coming today and for your dedication to politics in Ely. I really appreciate you all for being here. I am very thankful for the opportunity to run and serve this community. I'm Ely's biggest fan. I have been living up here full time since 2021 for the last time I did boomerang back. And I stayed up here this time because the community is so important. And I really feel that the community is the greatest asset that Ely has. One of the things that I've gotten involved in since 2021 is being on planning and zoning. Just recently I took over as being the planning and zoning chair, and I feel like we've made great changes within that of running really productive meetings and being on projects committee as a planning and zoning liaison. I stand for a really inclusive and welcoming town. I am an accountant, so I think that we should all be fiscally responsible. I want to hear all voices, and I believe in a sustainable, diverse economy that creates generational wealth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. In our first round of questions, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer their question. Then at the conclusion of the 4 questions, each candidate will be given 30 seconds to comment on anything discussed in this round of questioning. We'll start with Paul Kess. The recent water valve issue temporarily shut down some businesses, causing significant financial losses. Aging infrastructure was blamed for the problem. Should the city accelerate the replacement of old infrastructure so the same thing doesn't happen again? Or is there a way to ease the financial burden for businesses if it does?
Well, it's a 2-part question. You know, Ely is an old city and there's lots of old pipes. There's no real way to predict which are going to go, so you kind of have to wait and see what happens with some of them and then respond to them as emergencies. I think most of you are familiar, particularly in the springtime, when water freezes, water laterals to the houses freeze in the alleys. That's a constant thing caused by old pipes shifting ground. The one near the water tower was simply pipes that are 100 years old. And so you need to respond to those. We have a great public works department, and they were there through the night to get water back on to the tower so that we could have water again. I commend the public workers who did that. He was lucky to have such a competent crew. Should we accelerate? Well, that's a difficult question. Of course, we'd like to do more underground, more infrastructure work, but that costs a lot of money. And so we have money budgeted. We try to spend at least $600,000 of Ely tax dollar money every year, usually more than that. And that doesn't go very far. We do a few blocks. We try to lever our money and tail in on the work the county is doing with the state. For the next couple of years now, Harvey Street will be rebuilt by the county. It's a county state aid road. And now when the road is open, that's when we need to get in and do the stuff that the city owns under those streets. And so we need to take advantage of those kinds of things. Thanks.
Rodrika Musgrave. There has been both study and action taken on licensing and regulation of cannabis. What else do you feel needs to be done?
First of all, I want to say when I grew up, I got all the education that marijuana leads to hard drugs and it's bad and all kinds of stuff. And I've over a period of time, especially as an adult, learned a lot about that and have changed my mind on many things, that it should be allowed in certain ways. And I think there was one person in council, I'm not certain it was Al Forsberg, who did raise the issue of young kids becoming addicted to it, and that is a concern of mine. In answer to your question regarding the cannabis, what I did after the planning and zoning meeting is I went over to Stinky Pete's and informed them, and I haven't gotten to other places selling cannabis, to let them know what the city's doing. They should know ahead of time before public hearing and put input in, because there were some issues about double standards for liquor stores and cannabis stores, as well as discrimination against cannabis event parties at people's homes, that they couldn't do it Sunday, and a few other things. My thing is I need to educate myself and talk to people who know this, and hopefully Katie over there at the Timber J will do the research like she did last time for council and cannabis.
Jerome develops. People have been wondering about what's happening at the community center. How would you increase transparency so that Ely citizens know more about the development and the timeline, financial viability, and progress of the project?
Well, I think the first main problem is the person who's doing the work over there has got to get the money to move forward. He's a former Elyite. His family lived here for many years, and he wants to build something, you know, with rooms in there and things like that. But the problem is there's not a lot of money out there. We just had a discussion tonight. The northern part of Minnesota didn't get hardly any money out of the bonding bill that was in the state, and people need bonding money to move forward. And if you can't get the money, you can't move forward. But maybe the papers can go and talk to the person in charge, and maybe they can get some more information from him and find out what's happening, or we can bring him before the city council and let them tell us what they're doing on it, because not everybody knows everything, because a lot goes on at meetings that we don't hear about. You know, that's the problem. But I think we have to let the guy try to get it going and stuff like that. And I would say he will probably have to talk to anybody. So if you have a question, just go talk to him.
Emily Rose. How can the City Council make recruitment and interviewing of commission members more public? How can the work and accomplishments of those commissions become more transparent?
Hi. So City Council meetings, everyone is welcome to come to any of the commission meetings or the council meetings, and I'm sorry if that hasn't been made transparent to everyone, but you are welcome to come. One thing that can help make some of those more transparent is if we were to post, the City Council would have like a YouTube page where we'd be able to post some of those meetings in a very easy to access manner. And as far as recruitment for City Council, I think that those should be posted in the paper as they are, and then everyone needs to know that is where those notices are at. Thank you.
In this round of questioning, we talked about aging infrastructure, cannabis regulation, the community center, and city commission work and accountability. Each candidate now has up to 30 seconds to respond to any of those questions or to further clarify their own answer. We'll start with Paul.
The question about the CC is an interesting one, because the city, built a new library and that building became vacant. We tried to sell it to a group that then ultimately failed out, and we're fortunate to get a developer who's interested in restoring it and rebuilding it as a boutique hotel. We're fortunate to do that in the sense that that's a project that's risky. It takes a great amount of capital. It's not the city's job to do that. It's a private enterprise. And he is a private person doing work with, I think he's qualifying or has qualified for historic tax credits, which makes that project possible. And the city will go along with its way to support those efforts, but ultimately they're his efforts.
Frederica.
You gave me 2 issues that I could spend 5 hours talking on. My website, Citizens for Transparency, please look at it, www.elyminnesota.com/blog/. It's on the flyers that I mentioned. There's a lot to these issues, and I address the community center. Matt Strippett got it for $2. I don't know if the contract says if he doesn't have more than $2 or $100,000, that the city will step in and pay for that. Many.
Jerome?
First of all, we don't have that. Secondly, about the pipes going, my family's been here for a long, long time. So we have, we've lived here and we've seen what happened to pipes and everything else. It's just gonna happen. And, if we had $100 million, we could tear up all the pipes in the city and fix them. But at this point, we just don't have enough money to tear up all the streets and everything else and repair them after you take the pipes off.
Emily?
Well, first I want to say thank you to the Public Works for their quick response, and sorry for businesses that were affected with the water outage. I also want everyone to know that for the community center, that project is being actively tracked at the projects committee, so that is a good place to go to hear more about that. And thank you.
All right, another round. In this round, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer their question, and then again at the conclusion of the 4 questions, each of you will be given an additional 30 seconds to discuss anything in the round. So Frederica? There are almost no Section 8 housing options for low-income individuals and families. What do you think is the solution to Ely's housing crisis, especially for low-income families?
Well, Ely has a lot of individuals, families who need housing, the youth, and also seniors, and not just Section 8, not that seniors and youth wouldn't fit in that classification. I have questions about how the city is approaching housing development in general, and I attended the open communications meetings about a year ago, and there are a whole bunch of young people. It's like we want young people to be involved, and as soon as they're involved, it's like, listen to us, the older people say. Anyway, they had fantastic questions about development, and questions, why are we asking and only accepting high bids? I think the city needs to talk to people in the community, not just the developers and those who are invested in housing, to come up with a plan that's a comprehensive plan that fits in with the neighborhoods and matches not just the neighborhoods, but also access to the city due to transportation issues and also shopping. So it's a broader thing. I hate questions because it's like an A, B, C, D answer, and it doesn't work that way. And my teachers in high school hated me because I would write all over those pages. So it is more complicated. We need to do something, but also we need to look at the whole picture. We're too slow in this city.
Jerome? There is a contingent of people who would say that because Ely is different than it once was, it's dying. Is Ely dying, and what are the best strategies for an infusion of vitality?
Well, I wouldn't say he's dying. I was born and raised here, and I think there were over 5,600 people when I was young, and I can see somebody out there I went to school with who was here, he knew that too. But what happened was the mines closed down, and everything else, and they had trouble flogging and everything, and there weren't a lot of good paying jobs, and families couldn't afford to live here. I mean, you can't raise a family on $10 an hour, and then anybody that can, please tell me how you do it. But the problem is you got to have money to raise family, and we got to have good paying jobs. And I don't know people are against mining, of course, a lot of people are against it, but where we would get good paying jobs, maybe some of the people that are anti-mining should help us find people to get good paying jobs here so people can raise their family here. I'm 73 and I'm going to, I don't know how much I got longer here,
Parents are concerned about the availability of childcare in Ely. Some of the need has been addressed in the new community hub building. In what other ways can the city work to resolve childcare issues?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways that city council can get involved with childcare issues, and that's really in the policy making. So city council is in charge of policy making, and so they can make sure that the ordinances and policies that they put in place don't hinder any potential childcare businesses that come in. The city council can also act as a liaison to help find people that could be potential childcare operators, and the city council can act as a fiscal sponsor for any grants or other funding that might come in that might make it difficult for a childcare provider to receive that funding themselves.
Paul, you pass the mic down. You've been on the council for a number of terms. What do you see as your greatest achievements, and what are your greatest frustrations in your council work?
Good question. I don't really count achievements, and specifically,
Can you put the mic a little closer, sorry?
I think one of the things that's important to me is that we maintain good civic government and that we are transparent. We can always be somewhat better at that, as Frederica points out, but I think that by and large we have a good city government, we're well run, we have good employees, and I think that's maybe part of our doing, my doing. Frustrations, things move at the speed of government, and there's really reasons for that. A project that needs to, housing for example, needs to come through several different committees and then look for funding. And housing, for example, is not a local problem, that's a statewide problem. And so it's difficult for a local small community like ours to crack that nut. But I have both achievements and frustrations.
Thank you, everyone. In this round of questioning, we talked about childcare, housing, council member accomplishments and frustrations, as well as the vitality of our special little town. And now each candidate has up to 30 seconds to respond to any of those questions or to further clarify their own answer. And Frederica, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the community center and the library that the guy got for $2. I think the city needs to prioritize what's important in working with the citizens. What is important and how do we spend our money, set up projects, as well as Howard's great and seeking funds from the IRRR. Should he be seeking funds for this hotel, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, or should he be seeking funds for the small businesses in Ely who want accessible entrances and elevators? To me, that is a higher priority than the hotel.
Okay, in one answer to that, we have a fund set up for businesses and for locals if they want to improve their place of business or their homes. 2% interest, and if you're interested, just go see Harold. The thing I wanted to talk about housing, I just came from a meeting, EDA, and we have talked about housing. There was $39 billion kept given up for housing, and it all went down south. The only ones up north was Grand Rapids and Silver Bay, and all the money went down south. They didn't give Ely or any of these local communities anything.
Emily?
I want to go back to the question about the vitality of Ely. So Ely, I don't think is dying. There's a new energy that I feel in our community, and there's lots of people getting involved. I do understand that there are not jobs that are entry level that create generational wealth, and I think that is very important for the vitality of our community going forward. And I have a few ideas, I just couldn't tell you them in 30 seconds.
All right, and Paul, you'll also have a 30 seconds to circle back to any of the topics of this round.
You know, I really do think that housing is one of the big issues that many communities face. And so it's a very tough nut to crack. We are fortunate. We have an engineer who's our city clerk, and so he's well versed on how to design or get these projects going. He's very interested in seeing them come to completion. We thought we were in good shape with the apartment complex we have on the books, but if we didn't get money for it, it's not gonna get built. And even then, if it were built, we have to control the costs so that the rents aren't too high. Thanks, there's a lot to it.
Thank you all. We'll start our 1.5-minute questions with Jerome, and at the conclusion of the 4 questions, we'll do the 30-second response round. Jerome, it has been suggested that ranked choice voting for the City Council would eliminate the need for a council primary and thereby cut city election costs. What do you see as the advantages and disadvantages of moving to ranked choice voting?
Well, I'm not sure, because when this election coming up, so you've got the presidential election, you've got all your representatives and everything else, so you're dealing with the state, you're dealing with national and local. So it's not going to make a difference for this one. I don't think so. I think we should let the people make the decision by themselves, go into the booth, check who they want, and I think they have the choice. I don't think we should tell people who to vote for. They should have their choice who to vote for. You can't be telling people, you know, you should have this one and that one, or that one's better, or that one's better. I just think it's up to the people to make the decision who's going to be on the council.
Thank you. Emily, despite the notion that we are a climate sanctuary, climate change poses a significant threat to the economic stability and well-being of Ely residents. What can the City of Ely do to commit to developing sustainable, low-carbon solutions for utilities and infrastructure?
Yeah, so the City of Ely currently is working on the Green Action Plan, but there is a lot more that we can do. And first thing is that it takes all of us working as individuals to make stuff happen. But as a city, there are small steps that we can start to take, and the city is currently working on a lot of that. That includes switching out city lights to LED lights that are much more efficient. And so we're working on that, right? All the projects that come forward, they can't happen overnight. And so as they happen over time, we can start to make little changes that make big impacts on our environment.
Thank you. Paul, we're gonna pass the microphone over to you for this next one. How would you better involve the broader community, including businesses, in updating and monitoring the comprehensive plan? How could the city do a better job of reporting on the plan's implementation and accomplishments?
That's an interesting question. Comprehensive plans get made every 5 years or so. Then they tend to be put on a shelf and not looked at, because cities tend to respond to opportunities and you know, threats kind of thing. And so if there's an opportunity to get money for housing, even though it may not be your highest priority, you go for it. You have to be opportunistic in being able to accomplish the things, not just in order on the comprehensive plan. So I have mixed feelings about whether we should actually follow tightly the comprehensive plan, but I know the planning process is valuable. You go through it, you evaluate kinds of opportunities, and you try to articulate the vision for the city so that you know that you wind up, that you're moving in the direction of having a city that you want to live in. That's right.
Thank you. Rodrika, the city has come a long way in dealing with some of our blighted properties. There are still, however, a number of abandoned homes with unkempt lawns that affect the property value of those homes around them. Should the city become more assertive in requiring that derelict property owners adhere to zoning requirements? Why or why not?
Thanks for the question. This is the thing that bothers me deeply, because I look across my street and I see 5 unoccupied houses, and there's like 10, 12 houses. One of them is going to be on the market soon. There is well, again, I want to refer you to that website, okay, because I will talk about a whole bunch of things. www.elyminnesota.com/blog/. There is a section regarding 2 paragraphs that are being ignored in the comprehensive plan. Okay, and that one topic, open space and environment, protecting that on page 27, we haven't mentioned yet. But and I've forgotten the page for the blighted properties that's in the comp plan. But in the comp plan, it says what the city is supposed to do, which is consider purchasing the properties. I have been door knocking, door to door, and going to small businesses, talking about the city. And there are many buildings that are not occupied and many in need of repair. So we have quite a bit in here, and I think the city needs to step up and deal with the blighted housing before saying we're going to develop all these housing complexes. I mean, there's a tremendous amount.
Thank you. In this round of questioning, we talked about blighted properties, a comprehensive plan for the city, low carbon solutions for utilities and infrastructure, and ranked choice voting. Each candidate now has up to 30 seconds to respond to any of these questions or to further clarify their own answer. We will start with Jerome.
Well, and with blighted property, we have torn some houses down. We've gone to the IRRB for money, help, get us the funds to tear houses down. We give the people warnings on it, and after so many warnings, then we go and we do something about it. You just can't run onto somebody's property and tear it down, and then, because you will get sued really quickly. So you don't want the city of Ely being hot for $1 million because you made a mistake. So you have to keep, okay, thank you.
Emily?
I also want to speak about the blighted properties. So one thing that we all need to know is that there is a process that everyone has to go through in order to resolve those blighted properties, and that does take a long time. But another thing that the city can do to work on this is budget more in our budgeting process that can be used to tackle some of these blighted properties. Although I have to say it is quite expensive to resolve a blighted property, but if we start to budget for it, we can start to tackle it.
Paul, you are up next, and we'll start your 30 seconds once you get that microphone.
Okay. I'm a fan of ranked choice voting. I wish you could do it. I think the primaries are too often decided by such a minority of voters that they tend to skew the actual beliefs of the citizenry. So I wish you could move in that direction. That's not an easy thing to do. Most people are used to the process we have now, and as Jerome described, comfortable choosing the result of the people that are there. But I think the primary system is problematic for this, and ranked choice would solve that.
Finally, Frederica.
I want to talk about climate change and also the community comp plan. And first of all, in the comp plan, I believe that the city council should have taken leadership on this rather than delegating it to the commissions. Basically saying, this is what I want you to focus on, what do the citizens need. I analyzed the comp plan and visions for the city, www.elyminnesota.com, and basically I did a word search on climate and a few other things, and you'll notice that the city in the comp plan still says, oh, we might have a climate change. Let's deal with it.
All right, round number 4. Again, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer the question, and then again, you'll get the 30 seconds to circle back. Emily, we'll start with you. Under what circumstances is it appropriate for the city to weigh in on state or national issues they have no jurisdiction over? And what community member input should the council seek prior to issuing any statement on those issues?
So the city does not have any jurisdiction to make matters on state or any federal issues. The one thing that the city can do is write a letter. But before writing a letter, I do think it's very important that the city puts it out there as a public forum to get input from the city before they make a decision to send a letter on behalf of the whole city. It is a whole city issue if we're going to send a letter on behalf of the city. Thank you.
All right, Paul, what do you feel your constituents see as the greatest need in Ely, and what will you commit to doing to address that need?
I think it depends who you talk to. There's a variety of constituencies in Ely, and they all have different expressions of what they think is most important. For quite some time, childcare was an important, and still is to some degree. We made some progress on that. And now I think our greatest need from what my constituents brings up an interesting point. I'll try to be quick. I don't have any citizens call me or express their interest to me outside of the council. There's not a lot. I have phone numbers published in the website of the city. Citizens do not involve themselves by giving feedback to me, at least on the council. And I don't think many councilors really are bothered with people calling them. So I tend to go with what I think is the greatest need, and I think the greatest need is housing, because jobs depend upon housing. There are people who drive an hour to drive to Ely. It used to be you had to drive an hour to your job downrange. It's tough. I don't know what we'll do. Money isn't there. We'll keep cracking at it though.
Frederica, if elected, how will you seek input from your constituents so that you're representing their needs rather than your own wishes?
Great question. Basically, I've been going door to door right now. It's taken a lot of time. People invite me in their houses, want to sit on the porch and talk and say, no one has ever contacted me before. And they look over my flyer and we talk about that and other issues. And so basically, to get input, you have to go to the people. Government is here to serve the people. It's not about political games and politics and popularity voting. Go to the people and ask them. Go to the small businesses. And that's where I've gotten info from them and all kinds of ideas and impressions about council. Go to the people, and that's what I intend to do. And I love the open communications meetings that Angela Campbell and Adam Bisbee have hosted, and Paul's shown up in there, where you get input from citizens. But it's not enough, because many of them feel they are, and I hear it from them, they're not Ely because they weren't born here, or they won't be listened to because they support mining or don't support mining. We have to stop doing that and just listen to the people, let them talk, and let me tell you, the most beautiful stuff from people on this side of the spectrum and the other. I'm running for nonpartisan office, and it's great listening to the passion of people this way, that way, old and young. And I intend to continue with that, and I think most people who know me know I'm pretty determined. If I say I'm going to do something, boy, I'll do it.
Jerome, what community needs do you feel are so great that you would vote to raise taxes in order to make sure the need is addressed?
Well, I guess they've said it 100 times tonight, housing is very important, and we've got to have more housing for people to move here, and so we can lower taxes so there's more people on the tax roll. But the real problem, I think, is when we were looking at this, we have a lot of senior citizens in this community, and the senior citizens can't afford to have their taxes raised a lot because they don't have a lot of money. They're living off Social Security and other things, and you can't raise their taxes, so they can't live. And a lot of people, you don't want to put anybody on the street, and that's very bad if you did. And I don't want to ever do that, because I don't think that's ever allowable. But I want to make sure people can afford to live and things. But I think that housing's probably one of the biggest needs, and I think we can get some money through grants and stuff, because Harold's working on that stuff. And so I think that's the way we'll go about it. And the city don't want to tax. We don't want to raise the taxes on citizens of Ely. We can't help it if the county does, but we can't raise taxes because people need to live.
Thank you. So in this round, we talked about whether the council should address issues outside of its jurisdiction, the city's greatest needs, seeking constituent input, and what needs might justify a tax increase. Emily, you can go ahead with your 30 seconds.
I want to start by talking about getting input from constituents. As a candidate running, I definitely want to hear all of your input, so please approach me. I am out in the community a lot, so feel free to approach me out in the community as well. As far as our greatest need in Ely, I see that there are three big ones. There's childcare, jobs that create generational wealth and housing. And I think tackling all three together will provide the biggest impact to our city.
Pass the mic down to Paul, please.
I've been on the city budget committee for a long time, and I think it's important that we recognize that almost the majority of the people in Ely live on fixed incomes, and raising taxes is a difficult thing to do. And you know that you're putting the hurt on some people when you do that. So we concentrate on providing the basic services of city government. We have a fire and police budget. We have a road, I'm sorry.
Frederica.
That's a speech to be had.
Regarding input from citizens, as I said, I've been door knocking. I don't look at lawn signs. I go up to the second floor looking around for apartments you can't tell from the front, and going by the street the other side, someone's home, I talk to them. I get emails from people. I get phone calls from people, and I have previously. Those of you who know me, I've been recording council meetings since November 2023 and speaking in front of council since the spring of 2023. People email and call me. Now I've got a new batch, and what I need to do is make certain I continue that contact.
And Jerome.
Well, some people can see it's kind of difficult for me to go door to door. I got crippled about 10 years ago. But what happens is when I'm walking down the street, I'll talk to anybody. My wife, in fact, gets mad at me. She wish she had a baseball bat. Because she said, why don't you get going? I said, somebody wants to talk to me. And she'll get mad and heck at me. But I said, well, if they want to talk to me, I'm going to talk to them. I don't care. It doesn't matter who you are. I'm going to talk to you. And, thank you.
Thank you all. This is round 5. We'll continue the format of a minute and a half to answer each question, and then 30 seconds to comment on anything discussed in the round. This round will begin with Paul. A number of city services, such as the library and senior center, are as actively utilized by township residents as by city residents. Is there a better system for funding so that the funding somehow matches utilization?
We asked surrounding townships to contribute to our efforts. The library is a good example. The city of Ely receives most of its funding from a state source called local government aid, and that funds a majority of the city's spending. Townships don't get that. But then with that money, we're obligated in a sense to provide services to the residents of the township that simply don't have the resources to do that. And so I think that I'm losing my train of thought here, I'm sorry. A little frazzled tonight. Okay.
Thank you. Frederica. Small towns across the country have struggled to remain vibrant in a changing economy, and many have succeeded by finding a specialty niche for the community. Examples include history, outdoor recreation, scientific study, the arts. Do you see a specific niche for Ely to focus its development and marketing on?
Well, I wouldn't say A, meaning one. We have so many fantastic things here. I don't know. I mean, people are saying Ely's dying. I don't think so. We have a fantastic arts community, thanks to Ian and others, that bring people in to see the performances. We have a lot going for us, so that's where we are. Of course, the Wolf Center, I didn't know what to wear today. We got the Bear Center, we got the Boundary Waters, we've got all kinds of things going on here. So there's a lot to work on, and I'd really like to see Ely as a model city, perhaps the Morristown model for sustainability, which would bring people coming in. I think we need to build up our college to get more students, to bring more people in. And one of the things that hasn't been addressed yet in terms of the environment and nature is we have a very active Ely Field naturalist group here. and they aren't being recognized in comp plans or funding and a few other things. People come here because of nature and for viewing, not just the noisy activities, which I understand people want to enjoy. We've got so much going on here, and we've got a great Chamber of Commerce, as well as, right now it's out of my mind, the other group that's going on.
Thank you. Jerome, maintaining ambulance service and funding of that service has been at the forefront of discussion for some time in Ely. What do you think is the best solution to make sure we continue to provide this essential service?
Well, I worked at the hospital for 17 years, and I understand the problem with the ambulance service. We used to have where people worked in the hospital, and they worked on the ambulance when a call came in, and that a lot of times isn't happening now, because now they got their own building. I think we all work together and try to find a good solution. I don't want to see, us raised, how they're talking about raising the taxes, property taxes on everybody, a big amount, and I don't want to see that happen, because I don't think the older people can afford it. So what I think is we just gotta keep sitting down and keep going over it and see what we can do to make this an ambulance a better thing for us, because with the town of Ely and with the town of Morris, city of Ely, town of Morris, the town of Fall Lake and everything around here, we need to have a good ambulance service.
Thank you. Emily? Businesses in Ely struggle to maintain an adequate number of employees. What is the city's role in helping to solve that problem? And do you have any immediate thoughts about how that could be done?
That is definitely a problem that we see in most of our businesses in town. The city's role can be in helping make sure that our city is open and inviting for those who want to come and live here, and we can provide that so that those businesses can attract those people. But one problem that when people come in for businesses is the housing issue, and so working to also limit barriers for housing is another way that we can make sure we get more employees in our town.
Thank you. We talked about funding city services in an equitable way, whether Ely could become a niche community, maintaining ambulance services, and worker recruitment and retention. Now we'll start out the 30-second rebuttals with Paul.
The ambulance service issue is the kind of issue that faces many small communities across Minnesota. We're not unique, but that's a tough nut to crack. I think Jerome is right. He says that we can work together, we can find a solution. The state just threw some money in the coffer, but it's financially stressed. If we can come to a spot where we can cooperate with Babbitt and Tower, we can improve our ambulance service and have increased reimbursement rates, but we need to find ways to work together to accomplish that.
Enrica.
Just too many things to talk about. The ambulance, please refer to my website. I recorded the meetings and commented on, and I also talked to the citizens. There's a big issue of not getting information, not getting audits. I know personally with the accounting firm, I never got a bill from the ambulance service 2 years ago. And when I called for a bill 4 times, they wanted my credit card. The other thing, we have tremendous amenities here in Ely, theater at night, the movie theater. Thank you.
Jerome.
I know you threw the ambulance one at me, but like I said, the big problem is we gotta get everybody working together. We can't have people saying, well, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. Let's take care of the people who live here and live in the surrounding area. Let's not throw anybody under the bus. Let's let everybody have a chance if they get sick to be picked up and taken to the hospital. And that's the only way we're going to keep a vibrant community, a good hospital and a good school system.
And finally, Emily.
Oh, there's so much to unpack in this one. Okay, so one, let's make Ely an arts town. Let's also focus on tourism, and I still think that there's room for other industry that provides that generational wealth. I also want to touch on the ambulance issue. Part of the problem with the ambulance is due to Medicare rules, and so currently it's impossible for the hospital to absorb the ambulance. And so if we all work together as the other towns and the hospital were able to absorb all the other towns' ambulances, we would be able to increase those reimbursement rates.
All right, the next round we'll start with Frederica. We're going to keep the same model going. Frederica, if elected, what are your personal goals for what you would like to accomplish as a member of council?
Okay, I have it kind of outlined on the flyer I've been dropping off and sharing with people, and it's establishing policies and procedures and following the rules. And it's not just codes of conduct and ethics and conflict of interest. I think the meetings should be streamed, all of them, live 24/7 to people. I want to work for that. People will I couldn't see the council meeting Monday, and I'll never get a copy of that because I don't have Midco cable. Everything should be streamed and accessible. In terms of policies and procedures, I work for the government in purchasing. We are not following sending out 3 bids. You know, we're talking about increasing taxes and everything. The city isn't being careful. If there's an expensive item, you send 3 bids out. You don't contact one company. And I, on my website, have mentioned that again and again. I'm really concerned about how people are appointed to commissions. Some of them can serve for 9 years and they're never interviewed. They fill out a little application form, their history, and oh, that person, I know them, or oh, that person was born in Ely, I'm going to put them on the commission, or oh, that's a friend of mine. So we have some people serving on like 4 commissions, and I talked to council about that starting in spring 2023. The only time they started listening to me is when I reported what happened.
Jerome, council members are not expected to be experts in everything that comes before the council. What do you feel are your strongest areas of expertise in order to advance the work of the council?
Well, as I've said before, I've done a lot of volunteering in the city. I work with a lot of kids and everything else. So one of my favorite, or my biggest tricks, I guess, would you say, working with people. I was very successful with working with kids and things like that. I am a paraprofessional in Babbitt, and I work with kids in Babbitt, and I work with the community, and I ain't afraid to talk to anybody. I think one of the biggest things we have to do is not to just brush everybody off, but we have to talk to people, and I'm willing to talk to anybody in the street. Some people might think I'm crazy, but every time I go by, I say hi, and they think, a lot of people say, what's saying hi to me for? They think I'm drunk again. I'm just that kind of person. I grew up here, and I think Ely is a friendly community, and I think we should keep it a friendly community, and everybody should be friendly and treat each other with dignity and respect.
Emily, as one of our younger residents, what special experience and viewpoints can you bring to enhance the vision and responsiveness of the council?
Yeah, so I think my age is actually quite a benefit because I still have a lot of really big enthusiasm to get lots done, and I have the energy to be involved in lots of different activities around town where I get to talk to people and I'm out in the community. And I think that bringing that energy to council will help bring an inclusive energy where people who are younger will feel more inclined to come to council, speak their thoughts, and have them heard.
Pass the mic down to Paul, please. More and more often, communities have to demonstrate that they're open and welcoming to diverse populations in order to draw new businesses and new residents. What are Ely's strengths and weaknesses in that area? What could the council do to ensure that we're a welcoming community?
I think everybody knows that there's huge competition for businesses to locate in the communities. Ely, what Ely has going is Ely. People want to live here, and so there are people who come and want to locate. Many of the people who are employed in Ely now, I couldn't give you a percentage, I wish I could, are working at home. And that's a big draw for Ely, and because people can live and enjoy this area as well as be gainfully employed. That's a strength we have. We also have a strong support for startup businesses. People don't always know about it, but we do. And you know, it's one of those things, once you get involved, you get to be surprised at how much support. We have an economic developer who meets with individual businesses, startups, and existing businesses to access the programs like already IRRB. One popular one is the BRR, which is the Business Energy Retrofit program by IRRB. And so those kinds of things make small businesses, or make Ely attractive to small businesses, but still a tough sell. Small businesses are a tough business. You know, success rates require a lot of hard work. But it is a great place to enjoy it when we do that.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so topics in this round included candidate expertise and skills, creating a diverse and welcoming community, and goals for work as a council member. Our 30-second responses will begin with Frederica.
I'm going to go with the welcoming and also getting people here. We haven't talked enough about the development going on in Tower. I don't know if you've been over there, and it's just really awesome what Orland Kringstad and others have been doing in that city. And it's not just putting housing in, it's setting up jobs, hopefully, that will be there. Here, Aurora, so that we build up a community, and it's well planned. That's what Ely needs to start doing, is well planned development.
And Jerome.
Well, I'm going to respond to that. We're trying to do well-planned development, but the biggest problem is we have to have funds. Like I said, $39 million were given out for housing and everything else in the state, and we didn't get hardly anything up north to communities. And we've got to get them to understand that we as outstate need money too. So that's the way it's got to be.
Emily.
It is my personal mission to make new residents feel welcome in this town, and I hope that I've done that, and I want to continue to personally make new residents feel welcome. As far as expertise, I am a finance person. Currently my job is helping small businesses start, stabilize, and expand, so I think I can bring a lot to our table to help small business owners.
We'll pass the microphone down to Paul so he can have his 30-second opportunity.
Well, in some cases, I tell the aspiring counselors to be careful what you wish for. The job of a counselor is to work hard and be prepared. Our agendas and the supporting documents often run over 100 pages. So you need to be prepared with all of the things on that agenda, review all of the documentation, as well as attend committee meetings. So it's not a small task to be a city councilor. So be careful what you wish for.
Thank you all for your comments. This is the round 7 of questions, so our second to last round. You'll each have a minute and a half, starting with Jerome, and then following the 4 questions, there'll be the 30-second rebuttal time. Jerome, what, if any, role does the council have in oversight of the goals and accomplishments of the separate city departments? What oversight should they have, and how should those department accomplishments be reported to the citizens?
Well, we have pretty much all the oversight over all the committees and things. Although they come to us and they send their reports from their commission meetings or whatever meetings they have, and we try to make do with what we got and try to make the best decision possible. There's a lot of committees in the city of Ely. You can imagine how many, and for 31 years, I've been on pretty much every one. And you've got to look at everything, and then you got to look at what it's going to, if it's going to help Ely, or if it's going to help the people of Ely, or if it make Ely a better place to live. And that's what we're working for, to make this a better town so people will want to come here. And, you know, there's you know, a lot of people that would like to move to Ely, but they can't find a good job. So we've got one of our people looking at things, and Harold going out and getting you know, funds for that, and for housing, and for whatever projects, or for roads, And we do, the city of Ely also, you gotta understand, his, follow through or money that goes into a lot of these trails around here. The city of Ely gets the money and they just pay out things from the government, but they don't get the money, the money comes to them and they said it's sent out. So we do a good job as a city in helping other things go about.
Emily, what infrastructure projects do you see as priorities in the very near future?
So one infrastructure project that is currently in process that is very important is updating our city's water line. As we all know, that was quite a problem recently. So that is something that is very important for us to update. Yeah, I think all of the city's infrastructure at some point will need to get updated, and it's truly trying to find the money to make those projects happen.
Paul? We hear a lot of conversation about how we need the mines to bring jobs. But even if approved, those jobs would be slow in coming. What other ways should the community focus its efforts in job creation in order to ensure a diverse economy?
I think the most important thing you can do is work to achieve a quality of life, as we have been here in Ely, so that people want to live here. And I would say they bring their job with them. That's the biggest source of growth, employment in the city, is people who work at home, or work remotely. That's important, so that Ely is attractive to people who want to do that. I think other than that, economic growth in Ely will depend upon solidifying the tourism industry. Tourism is generally not known for providing livable wages, and so it's always been heavy industry like mining that we've counted on. As we wait for that, if in fact it comes, I think we need to focus on quality of life issues here in Ely. No one wants to live in a community without a functioning hospital, without a functioning school. Ely's fortunate to have an airport. So those kinds of infrastructure things become important in the economic development of the city.
Rodrika, what can the council do to support small business in Ely?
Well, number one, ask them. When I went to downtown to the businesses, door to door, just like I did to houses, no one's ever visited me from council. No one's ever asked me, and I go out and I say, the purpose of government is to serve people in the community. And then I'll have a discussion with people, half the store owners apparently don't live in Ely, and they're telling me, don't waste your time, I don't vote here, and I have to tell them they are Ely, and government should be serving their needs. And they should be asking them directly, not indirectly. Okay, the second thing is, there are a lot of great things going on in Ely. One of them is the Tuesday group, but also I look at other things. There are other organizations that are meeting and discussing stuff with small businesses, and I believe Emily's going to address that too. But the Boundary Waters Connect, as I understand it, on November 18th, I'm really excited about this, is sponsoring a meeting, inviting people to come from profits, nonprofits, businesses, and this is really exciting, and I want to listen, I want to learn. So go where the info is, don't wait for it to come to you.
Our topics this round were department oversight and reporting, infrastructure priorities, job creating, and how to support small business. You'll each have 30 seconds to respond, starting with Jerome.
Well, I have to disagree on that point that we don't help small businesses. As I told you before, we got a loan thing that 2% loan for either residents or for businesses. They can come up and ask for it, and we give them a loan, and that helps them do different things. And I don't believe that all businesses said we don't help them at all. We do help the businesses in Ely, and we do give them that nice loan so they don't have to pay 7-8% interest. So I disagree with the point that we don't help the businesses.
Emily.
Speaking with a constituent recently, they told me that they thought a good opportunity for jobs in Ely could be trying to get state jobs out of big cities and into rural areas. So I think that's one thing that the city of Ely could do to try to decentralize some of those state jobs. I also think Ely has lots of opportunity in the tech industry to help make that happen. And yeah.
Pass that over to Paul, who will have 30 seconds to elaborate on his previous answer or comment on the other topics.
You know, Ely did a good job in decentralizing state jobs when we built the Department of Revenue down on Miners Drive. And then further, when those jobs are sent remotely from there to people's homes. So, and I agree with Jerome. I think we have an active small business support program. In some ways, we've been told it's the end of the iron range that we help businesses start. Going into business is a tough thing, and so support is necessary and important.
And finally, Frederica.
Well, one of the things I've noticed is the city doesn't prioritize needs or list all the needs and people in terms of funding projects, in terms of supporting seniors, because the seniors are more than just the senior center. That's all I hear about the senior center. Regarding documents, as everyone knows who's on my BCC list or goes to the website, I really look at the documents posted for city meetings. And there are no attachments to committee meetings, so you really don't know what they're talking about. We need to improve that.
All right, folks, this is our final round before we go into the closing statements, and we'll start with Emily. There are concerns that motorized recreation is being approved on an overabundance of trails around the city. Do you see this as an issue? Are there adequate quiet places for recreation in the city?
Motorized recreation does have a significant hand in helping our tourism during the shoulder seasons, so it's very hard to limit that when we know that up here we need lots of people still coming during our shoulder season. However, I do think that having public forums where we can limit and have public input on where those trails are located will help our city.
We'll pass the microphone down to Paul. All right, Paul. There are concerns that there are too many Airbnbs in the city that are tying up housing that might otherwise be available as rentals for year-round residents. Where do you stand on that issue, and what do you see as needed in the taxing and regulation of those properties?
Is that a question like Taylor's needs? I oppose the expansion of Airbnbs in Ely for the simple reason that it takes housing away from people who'd like to live here. Airbnbs can cause a lot of damage to a community's infrastructure in the sense of people wanting to cycle and live in rentals. And so that's why I was opposed to them. I'm not opposed to them entirely. When we first set up the license system, it was 36 units that were approved. And over time, then, I think I've helped the council understand that we need to have less, and we lowered it to 25. I do welcome the money that people put into those sometimes older houses. And so we welcome the investment, but you have to be very careful about the impact that it has on neighborhoods. I wouldn't want an Airbnb next to me. I have grandchildren who come, and having people come and go every night, I think is an issue not only for noise, but for security.
Frederica, what do you feel you can do on the council to encourage more focus on green energy and green jobs?
Well, one of the things I like to tell people is speak in front of council, and I've gotten a few people to do that. We have some experts here who have the details to present to council. I don't know, I should be looking at the audience, not you guys. Anyway, we have a fabulous climate control group, sustainability group, also Cure, Minnesota Cure, and they have done so much research. And I'd like to see them not only present at council, but also at the committee meetings. And I've been, as I say, I look over the minutes and stuff like that, and I'm really happy to see that there are little changes being made in terms of the lighting and other things for less use of electricity and saving energy and recycling. We need to look to the experts. And again, if they speak, I noticed that in council, if people come in front of council and speak as well as the commissions, things happen. It's not what I say. And basically, I'd like to see more of that. Because we got great people, great experts. You talk about not having experts. We have great experts here, and they can pull in really good ones too.
Jerome, many of our residents who retired here have to move away as they get to the point where they may require more services. They take that tax base with them. What do you see as priorities in terms of the unmet needs of seniors, and what is the council's role in finding solutions?
Well, I'll tell you a little story. A long time ago, when they built that housing for the senior citizens on Washington Street, somebody got mad at me because I voted for it, and they ran against me for council and spent thousands of dollars, and they lost. The thing for senior citizens is we need where they can go. They can't take care of their own houses anymore. They can't remove snow. They can't cut grass or anything else. We need more housing for senior citizens. And we need services. We got a good hospital here. And we also got other services available. And the county got services and everything else. There's buses that come to town and bring people through and everything else. So I think what the important part is we have to keep continuing to get services for senior citizens. We have to make them know that they're cared for, because, you know, in other countries, senior citizens are looked up as deities, and they're looked up as people who are really important in their communities and everything else. And senior citizens, I'm a senior citizen, so I think senior citizens ought to be taken care of, and I think we all should be friendly to them too, you know, because sometimes when you see a senior citizen walking down the street, you know, say hi.
Thank you, everyone. So this round included topics about outdoor recreation, Airbnbs, green energy and jobs in the community, and senior services. Emily, you can get started with your 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, so I want to touch on the Airbnb subject. This is a very important subject, as there is a lack of housing in our town. And so one thing that we can do, and it's in City Council's power, is to enact a stricter moratorium on residential zones, and potentially input a moratorium in commercial zones. And as to what that number would be, I think I would need to pull in some experts to learn more about that, but it would be a topic to explore.
We'll pass the microphone down to Paul.
I'll go back to that Airbnb thing, because it's the thing I think that we enjoy Airbnbs when we rent them in other communities, but it's one of the things we have to be so careful here. The idea that it takes housing away from people who want to live here is the critical determinant there. We already have a moratorium on Airbnbs in residential zones. We don't in the commercial zone, and maybe that's an idea we should pursue. But historically, places like Outfitters would rent to people above their storefronts and things like that. So regulating in commercial districts is more difficult.
Frederica.
I'd love to see more families just going door to door, door knocking. It's just beautiful to hear the laughter of kids. And regarding the housing, we have so many unoccupied houses, you wouldn't believe it. And I think we need to do something about that. And I think the city just needs to tell us how many unoccupied houses and do some kind of incentive to have those people finally sell off the house or fix it up, something.
Just touch on the senior citizens issue again. When I was younger, I delivered Meals on Wheels to senior citizens, and I used to go to this one lady's house, and I'd walk in and give her a meal, and she'd ask me if I could stay and watch her play the piano and stuff, and I would do that. And I think more people ought to give their time to help senior citizens and stuff, and to recognize them and make sure you know you feel good about it.
Thank you all. Each candidate now has a minute and a half for their closing statement. We will start with Paul.
The thing I was going to put in the housing discussion was, anybody who tried to rent an apartment in Ely recently? Find anything?
I had to ask a local.
Yeah, it's very difficult to find. And so I think that sort of demonstrates the need. But in my time in Ely, and over in my time at the council, I've seen Ely change over time. I think every community does that. Some people decry that, and I look forward to sort of the new energy that the young people bring to Ely. I think that Ely is changing for the better. I think that we have a good solid basis to continue that in city government. We have the support of organizations at the state level and at the regional level. And we have active groups. Think of the mountain bike trails that we've created in the last few years. And so that's all built on the basis of volunteers. And so I think Ely's set up for a good future because we have a good population. I think the needs of senior citizens will become more important as people get older like I do and want to continue to live here. I welcome your support at the election. I hope I can continue to serve the people of Ely.
Thank you, Paul. Rodrigo, you have 1.5 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay, I'm going to try and talk fast. Okay, I'm reading from my flyer. Frederica believes in balanced growth and development that reflects the needs of our local small businesses and residents, respects the reasons we moved here, matches up with present visions and evolving future needs, provides safe, accessible, and lifestyle options for our diverse community and tourists, including passive hobbies and activities like bird watching and dog walking, integrates healing green space for humans, birds, and our pollinator friends, springs from community user needs instead of developer profits, demonstrates balanced commitment by a project, staff, commissioner efforts, and dollars. Seniors aren't all disabled and can't move around. I talked to quite a few of them, and some of them are interested in getting activities. I'm hoping to do a second round and visit them. And if you look at the housing that's set up, again, I talk about healthy healing. You don't just put a building up. You don't just talk about senior center or housing. I want to mention several things was brought up. 2% interest for small businesses. What's the difference between that and going to IRRR asking for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars for the hotel? I'm certain they don't have a 2% interest rate when they get the funds from IRRR. There's a big difference. Who do you serve in this community? The developers or the small businesses that are here? And I would like to point out, I have lots of things, like Babbitt is doing well.
There we go. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. I've served on the council for a long time. I would appreciate your vote. Like I said before, I work for the citizens of Ely. I'm not a special person, or I'm not anything special in this community. I grew up here. I've been here for 72 years out of my 73 years of life. I think the city of Ely is important to me. I got a lot of friends here and people I know. The biggest thing I think is that we have to work as a community to make this place a good place. I don't think we got so many people angry at each other for something like mining and BWCA and everything else. We got to work together to make sure Ely is a good community. And we gotta help each other out and stuff. And on the senior citizens, yeah, a lot of us are senior citizens, so we gotta help them too. But we've gotta make sure we're taking care of the people who are here and stuff. And since I've been on city council, I can't remember how many mayors and council people I served with, but a lot of them had a lot of great ideas and stuff like this. And we try to be smart about spending the city of Ely's money, and we don't like to raise taxes, and I don't like to raise taxes because I'm a taxpayer too. So, but I think we gotta just keep going forward into the future and make sure Ely is a good place to live.
I'm so thankful to live in this community and to call this my home and my forever home. So thank you all for making this community somewhere that I want to live. I am someone who is trying to provide an inclusive and welcoming ethos, and bring that along with my financial background to help the city tackle all these challenging issues that we bring forth. I'm committed to listening to all of your voices and working towards a diverse local economy where we can promote generational wealth. I want to make sure that I'm a transparent person in this community who really takes into account everyone's opinions and considerations. I do have some materials in the lobby if you are interested in any of those. Thank you all so much for coming tonight.
All right, thank you to our 4 candidates for their thoughtful answers to the questions. Thanks to AAUW and the Rotary here in Ely for sponsoring this, and to the public for providing so many great questions. I know I learned a lot that was quite illuminating, and as a small business owner, I was thrilled to hear your answers. So I think there's a lot of people like that out here. Thank you to VCC, Minnesota North College, Vermilion Campus, for providing the space for this important community event. And thanks to all of you for coming. This is the second event in 2 weeks here, and the turnout has been great. I would like to encourage you again to grab a handful of people after this, go have a beer, try and grab some people you disagree with maybe, and talk this stuff through, because we are all members of this community, and we do, over and over, it was reiterated, well, we got to do something and we got to do it together. So really encourage you all to do that. Thanks everybody for coming. Cast your vote when the time comes, and have a great night.